Hello, everybody. My name is Bobby Wilson. I'm the Executive Director for the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency. I've been an employee of TWRA for 41 years, 17 years of which I spent in West Tennessee, so I'm well attuned to the issues involving public land duck hunting in West Tennessee and in Middle Tennessee. The proposal you're about to watch is what the agency was planning on presenting to the Commission before we got this icy winter weather this week. This has truly been a community effort. I want to give a big thanks to everybody involved, from hunters giving feedback to the agency staff as a whole, and to our commissioners who have listened to both sides. Everyone has worked so well together to improve public land duck hunting in Tennessee. I hope you will listen with open ears. For more information on this and other topics, please visit our website at tnwildlife.org. Now here's Jason and Chris.
Thank you, Director Wilson. Hello, everybody. I'd like to thank y'all for joining us today. We're going to do a quick overview of our duck blind proposal. The commission meeting was snowed out this week and it's postponed to March 4th and 5th. So we wanted to go ahead and bring this overview to you. And I thank Chris Richardson for joining us. He's one of our assistant directors. He's going to present an overview real quick, and then we're going to get to some questions, some of the frequently asked questions that were coming in from the public. And so I'll let Chris take it away.
Thank you, Jason, and hello to everyone out there watching. I know if you've made it to this video, you, like me, are a passionate waterfowler in the state of Tennessee and want to provide you kind of with some overview of some significant changes that we've made to our proposal since we last talked to you, or last rolled out a proposal around the 1st of February. We've gotten a ton of public comment over the last few weeks, and we've done our best job possible to try to get as many of those comments addressed in this revised proposal. And unfortunately, with the meeting being canceled, we're not presenting to the commission this week, but fortunately, that's going to give you all a couple more weeks to continue to send your comments and let us know what you think about these revisions. So I'm going to try to go through these pretty quickly because I think most of you will be familiar with the tier system. But just to kind of frame the issues, if you look back at how we got to where we are, this is not something that was triggered by one survey overnight or triggered by one offhand comment to a commissioner. For many years, there have been concerns and questions about how we administer our public land duck hunting, both from the nature of those WMAs specifically, and also how we do the handheld blind draws across the state. So this overall proposal is really a comprehensive look at those WMAs that allow for duck hunting and those systems that allow for the administration of drawing those spots. And it's our best attempt to make things better for all the hunters in Tennessee. If you kind of look at how the agency went about this, we looked at every facet of our duck blind proposal, or excuse me, every facet of our duck blind draw system. And we asked these questions: is it fair? Is it equitable? Are we maximizing the opportunity for the most number of hunters possible to get on and experience what we have? Because we work for all the hunters in Tennessee, and it's the license fees that all of the hunters pay that allow us to do that work. This is kind of a timeline that we went through. If you look at kind of where we started these conversations, we go all the way back to March of 2018. And the commission and the agency had discussions over, could we look at our duck blind draw system and are there improvements that we could make? We developed an agency public access team, and we started to explore what options we might have. If you forward to June of 2019, we made the first revision kind of to our draw procedures, and that's where we went to a two-phase draw system for season-long permits at the handheld drawings. That is where we basically drew a name from the hat. We then established the parties that were going to be part of those permits. We then put all of those names back in to draw for the order of selection. And that was specifically designed to try to make things more fair and to curtail any illegal blind selling or buying that was going on. In conjunction, after that two-phase drawing, we took some additional steps and we contracted the University of Tennessee to provide us with a duck hunter survey that many of you have seen or have heard about. Certainly that I don't pretend to be a statistician or one that knows how to produce statistically valid results based on the comments of less than everyone, but the University of Tennessee certainly tells us that that's a scientifically valid survey, and we gleaned some information about the attitudes of our duck hunters through that. COVID-19 hit us in 2020 and did not allow for the traditional handheld draw to be put in place. And we passed an emergency rule in June of 2020 to allow for a computerized drawing of duck blinds for this past season in order to stay compliant with those COVID restrictions. In October of 2020, the agency was challenged by the commission to provide some concepts and things to look at overall for changes. And we presented those to the commission over the course of October, November, and December. We started out talking in broad concepts. We had a public meeting in Parsons, Tennessee, where we heard from many of you about those concepts. And then as we went into December, January, and then into February, we started to develop some of the specifics of the proposal that many of you have seen. The proposal that came out in February the 1st, 2021 is the last information that we've given to the public to this point. And I want to highlight right here, there are significant changes to the agency's proposal that are all based upon the comments that you all have submitted, phone calls that we've received, conversations with commissioners. We're doing our very best to try to incorporate as many of those requests as we can. There are two rules that are in play here. The first is the migratory bird rule, and it will be changed. The major changes are outlined there for you on the slide. We're setting up a 4-tier system. We are putting in the rule that designation of blinds within the tier system needs to be reviewed and voted on by the commission at least once every 2 years. And it provides that those blinds will be drawn for and administered through a computerized system as opposed to the handheld. Tier 1 blinds are season-long blinds. This is what everyone is accustomed to right now. These are the 60-day structures that are given to an individual or group of individuals. Those individuals are then required to build a blind on that location, and they are able to have priority for that location for the full 60-day season. Tier 2 blinds are new to this system. These are the blinds that the agency is proposing to construct, maintain, and brush and make available on shorter duration hunts. Tier 3 locations would be drawn for in our quota system, just like our Tier 2 blinds. These locations are areas that either do not have a blind on them currently, or the blind is in such condition that it would be a total rebuild. The idea behind the Tier 3 system is to provide a quality location for individuals to boat hunt from or to construct TWRA blinds that are removed at the end of their hunt period. Tier 4 blinds are locations that we would administer on a first-come, first-served basis. They would not be part of any draw, not the quota draw, not a 60-day draw. These are simply designated hunt locations that would be available to the first person that gets there on any given day. The second part of the rule is the permit, or the second rule that we're having to modify to accomplish this is the rule that dictates permit applications and drawings. And again, the major changes there, we're defining the issuance procedure for the waterfowl hunt locations, and we're prohibiting Tier 1 permittees. So if you participate in the season-long drawing in early August and you are successful in being drawn for a permit for one of the 60-day locations, or you are a sign-on for one of the 60-day locations, you would not be eligible to apply for the later draws, the later quota hunt draws for the Tier 2 or Tier 3 waterfowl hunts. Priority points, we want to apply a priority point system to our duck blind draws. Now, we received a lot of comments from the public that indicated that the priority point system was not going to be popular nor workable when it came to the 60-day structures, or that blind draw that we've traditionally had the 1st of August, and we have responded accordingly. We do not intend on applying priority points to the 60-day draw. The priority point system will be limited and applied only to the Tier 2 and Tier 3 location quota draws that happen later in the year. This is a way that this slide kind of describes how the priority point system will work. If you apply for one of those quota hunts and are unsuccessful, you will be issued a priority point. We're proposing to have 3 draws for the Tier 2 and Tier 3 blinds, which would be an early season, a mid-season, and a late season draw. Priority points would be kept unique to each draw period, and they would be carried over from year to year. Obviously, if someone is successful in acquiring a permit, their priority points are reset back to 0. One significant change that is different than the way perhaps most priority point systems or the priority point system that we have administered for other deer and turkey quota hunts is that the priority points of a party, if you put in as a party for a duck blind, the priority points for those individuals will be averaged together to determine the final priority point application. So for instance, if there are 3 hunters, 2 of them have 3 priority points and 1 of them has no priority points. You would add 3 plus 3 is 6, divided by the 3 hunters. Each hunter would receive 2 priority points applied to their application. Again, on the draws, as we administer them on the computer draw, we're encouraging folks to put in as a party or as an individual, whichever they prefer. But those individuals that put in as a party will all have an equal chance to draw, which is a change and a departure from the computerized draw that we had for this season. I know some of you out there probably have priority points from the limited quota hunts that we've had in the past, namely Pagoda, Thorny Cypress, Chickamauga, those areas. We have found a way to allow those individuals to keep their priority points, and we will apply them to the mid-season draw application period. When we looked at the priority point holders that we currently have in the system, and the majority of the hunt periods that they were applying for fell within the middle period. And so we decided we would apply those existing priority points to that mid-season period, and they would be able to retain those until, of course, they're successfully drawn and they're reset to 0. We also have a requirement on our tier 2 and tier 3 locations, our quota draws. We're going to ask successful permit winners to return a notice of intent. That notice of intent would be returned to the agency saying, I in fact intend to hunt the period that I was successfully drawn for. This is an effort for us to reduce any no-shows and to make sure that our spots are being hunted and utilized as much as possible. If a notice of intent is not returned, or it is returned to indicate that that individual hunter does not intend to utilize the permit they were drawn for, we have a procedure in place to do a leftover or vacancy draw for those permits. Those drawings will be applied for on the computer in a similar fashion to the way the initial quota draw will work. However, we wanted to add a requirement that a person be near the area that they're applying for at the time the results are released. So you will have to be present to win. We have traditionally done a localized handheld draw for leftover or local vacancy spots. This will be a computerized application, but the results will still be announced locally, and hunters will need to be present on the night of the announcement in order to secure those permits. There are some minor changes to the existing quota hunt areas, Pagoda, Thorny, Chickamauga. They're outlined here on the screen for you. Probably the biggest change that is not included on this screen, and it is one that was spurned from the public comment that we received. Areas like Pagoda and Thorny Cypress have historically only allowed 5 hunters to utilize a permit. And we have brought those areas in line with our other WMAs, and now a successful permit winner at Pagoda, Thorny Cypress, or Chickamauga will be able to bring up to 7 additional hunters with them. So we have changed the max party size on those areas from 5 to 8, bringing it in line with our other WMAs. This is probably the meat of what everybody wants to talk about. And I know that the overwhelming majority of the public comment that we received had concerns about the number of blinds that we were changing from one tier to another. As you can see on this slide, the numbers that have a strike through are the numbers of the allocation for different tiers of blinds that came in the February proposal. As you can see, we initially had 126 tier 1 blinds proposed. Under this revision, and in response to the public comment that we received, we're now suggesting that we put 414 blinds into the tier 1 classification, 41 blinds into the tier 2 classification, and 30 blinds into the tier 3 classification. Again, this is a significant change to our overall proposal and one that the public has consistently asked for. We hope that this is received well, and we hope that this is more in line with what our hunters desires are for the administration of our public land duck hunting. Yet we still believe in our tier 2s and our tier 3 systems. While there was a lot of negative comments about the lack of tier 1 blinds, if you will, in the initial proposal, there was a considerable amount of excitement and positive comments from some hunters about the opportunities that tier 2 and tier 3 blinds will provide. Going from here, I want to go straight into some of the maps, and I'm going to flip through these maps very quickly. We're going to make them available to the public for your review. You'll have an opportunity to study these, to continue to make additional comments, but I wanted to go through very quickly and show you just how much change there is between the proposal we released February 1st and the current proposal that we have now. AEDC Woods Reservoir, and what I would encourage you to note is just how many blinds are changing from either the blue cross or the yellow square into that pink triangle. This is the current proposal, leaving almost all of the blinds yet, except for those 4 tier 2s in the tier 1 classification. Cheatham Lake, this is the January proposal. This is the current proposal. Again, flipping yellow squares to pink triangles. Haynes Bottoms, you can see the 2 proposals, January on the left, the current proposal on the right. Old Hickory. Old Hickory, we had proposed a significant number of tier 4 blinds. The public spoke and had concerns that perhaps we had moved too many blinds and wanted to see more 60-day structures left on the landscape. So here's the current proposal for Old Hickory. We have flipped everything except for the 6 tier 2 blinds back to a 60-day structure. Old Hickory Unit 2, same result, returning those traditional 60-day tier 1 structures back to that classification. Barkley, January on the left, current proposal on the right. Big Sandy, Gin Creek unit of Big Sandy. There were also some adjustments that we made to a certain number of blinds based both in part on safety concerns and also on a quality of experience concerns. There were many comments that were made that suggest that we have maybe perhaps too many sites in some areas, and the quality of the duck hunting has been affected by the number of blinds. So in this revised proposal, we made every attempt we could to space the blinds out appropriately. We moved a few blinds where we could. We did in fact have to remove a few blinds from the landscape, and this will outline those specific locations. There were a total of 5 sites removed. 4 of them were at Camden and 1 at West Sandy. These are the specific numbers at Camden Unit 1 that were removed due to the proximity of those structures from another structure. And again, safety is part of the concern here, but it's also significant that the hunters have asked for a more quality experience, asked for a little more space on those blinds. Hopefully this will reduce the amount of swing ducks that are being shot at or called at and provide everyone with a little bit better quality experience. Here's the blind maps for Camden Unit 1, January proposal on the left, the current proposal on the right. And again, I know I'm going through these very quickly, but these maps will be made available to you in addition to this presentation. Camden Unit 2, January on the left, the current proposal on the right. Gooch, this is Gooch Unit A. As you can see, and the consistent theme throughout all of these changes is there's significantly more tier 1 structures left on the landscape than were proposed in early February. Reelfoot Lake, January on the left, the current proposal on the right. Tigrit. So you can see in Tigrit, nearly every blind but for the 3 tier 2s are putting back to the traditional tier 1 60-day structure classification. West Sandy. West Sandy was also one where we had blind 40 removed due to the proximity to another structure. And that change is noted here. In summary, the overall goals of this proposal, and clearly the comments that we received, filtered and distilled together, we want to retain the tradition of the season-long permit. We want to be able to make sure that hunters have the ability to experience that permanent duck blind style duck hunt with stoves and cooking breakfast and the things that our hunters are all very passionate about. But at the same time, we want to provide those additional opportunities that perhaps other hunters are interested in as well. And we believe that this new proposal strikes a good balance as far as retaining those traditions, but also providing new opportunities that we think people will enjoy. The computerized draw is an important component to this, and we believe that in today's technology and the opportunities that we have to administer things this way, it's going to make it easier for hunters to secure a permit, to secure a blind, to go waterfowl hunting in the state, and we're excited about that. The 3-stage draw, or the 3-period draw for our quota hunts, namely the tier 2 and tier 3 locations, should provide increased opportunity. You basically get 3 bites at the apple now to secure a permit on these locations. It's also going to put those draws closer to the hunt periods to help guard against and ensure that these permits are being utilized. The other significant change, even when we administered the computer draw in 2020, we restricted hunters to only be able to apply for or to prioritize hunt locations on a single WMA. Under the new system, any hunter in the state will be able to prioritize their hunt choices across all of our WMAs, and they won't be limited to applying for just one. And again, the priority points being applied in the tier 2 and tier 3 quota systems, those have been popular at Pagoda and Thorny Cypress, and a very similar system is going to be applied to those additional locations we're proposing under this plan. We believe that this provides a significant increase in opportunity while retaining the longstanding traditions of Tennessee duck hunting. We hope that you all will continue to provide comments, continue to provide insight as we move forward and hopefully towards a final vote by the commission in a couple weeks. With that, Jason, I'd be happy to entertain any questions that we've gotten. I know we've had a significant amount of public comment. I know there's been some themes that are repetitive through many of those comments, and certainly I could have overlooked some things that if you'd like to go over, I'll be happy to answer those questions here.
Thank you, Chris. A lot of great information there. Thank you for that overview. And you touched on it there towards the end, opportunity, but that was my first question. I know there's been questions come in about that there's plenty of opportunity. There's always been blinds open. But what's the definition of opportunity here?
Yeah, I think that has been kind of a common misconception, and some folks are hearing us say increased opportunity to mean increased utilization of our WMAs. And that's not necessarily what we mean. If you look at our WMAs across the state and the procedures that we've had for allocating those blinds, it really has favored perhaps a smaller number of unique individuals that have a good chance to go experience what our WMAs have to offer. By adding approximately 70 or changing the classification on 70 blinds out of 500, we hope those 70 blinds are available for people to secure an opportunity, meaning a chance to go hunting, rather than the traditional blind hopping method that we've had to this point. While some blinds under the 60-day season certainly go unhunted, or they don't get hunted 60 full days out of the season, which does provide an opportunity for an individual to hop, we're interested in people being able to be guaranteed a spot, if you will, and be able to plan a vacation or plan travel to go experience these different WMAs. And that includes people from all different parts of Tennessee, whether it's East Tennessee hunters, Middle Tennessee hunters, West Tennessee hunters. The previous system that we had, we forced groups of hunters into one WMA. And that was by virtue of having to apply for one WMA to get a 60-day permit. By being able to have an application that covers all the WMAs and having shorter duration hunts out there available for people to select from, we think that guaranteed opportunity is going to cause more people to travel and more people to get a chance to experience that. But it really is more about the unique individuals or the number of individuals that get a chance to go hunt than it is purely the number of people on our WMAs, if that makes any sense.
Sure. Yes. And you've touched on this in that answer as well, but the ability to blind hop, people are concerned about the best blinds not being hoppable, but as you presented, tier 1 blinds have increased, right?
Absolutely. We've taken over 270 blinds that were in early February were proposed to be in a tier 2 or tier 3 classification and put those back in tier 1. There are a number of good blinds in this proposal that retain that 60-day opportunity. As far as the hoppability, the only blinds in this proposal that we're proposing not to be hoppable are those tier 2 blinds. Those blinds are going to be constructed by the agency. They're going to be maintained and built by the agency. And we need to be able to have some accountability on the individuals that are utilizing those locations. We expect people to keep those blinds free from trash. We expect people to treat those blinds as if they were their own for that 3 or 4 day hunt that they're successful in. But we recognize that there could be situations where the blinds were left trashed or the blinds were damaged in some way. By keeping those not hoppable, we have some level of accountability to the permit holder that was in that blind for those short duration hunts. So that's where our current proposal is now. And again, of the blind sites in Tennessee, we're proposing to make 41 of them not hoppable, but retain hoppability on every other location in the state.
Awesome. One of the other questions, we'll just try to go down the list here. Some folks are not happy about privately owned blinds on Reelfoot and West Sandy. It's not right for people to own public land. What would your comments be about that?
Certainly it is a unique situation and one that I'm not aware of really exists in any other state besides Tennessee. The fact remains that when the state of Tennessee took control over Reelfoot Lake and over West Sandy, there were a significant number of privately controlled structures on those areas. And while that is long before my time, the agreement that was made was that those individuals would be able to retain the use of those private owned structures throughout the duration of someone's lifetime. And they were given the option to register that blind in the name of any person who was living at the time. And a lot of folks took the opportunity to register those in the name of a young child. We are consistently getting some of those blinds back every year when people pass away or fail to register them. And we're doing our best job to put those opportunities back into our public draw system when we can and when we do get them back. So it's not something that is impacted by this proposal in any way. Those blinds will be administered and continue on as they traditionally have been. And I can understand some of the frustration, but it is a system that we have.
Some may say that they have no faith in TWRA to maintain those blinds that we'll be building and brushing and that sort of thing. What would your response be to that?
Certainly, I can understand that people would be concerned there. Anybody that's built a duck blind or brushed a duck blind knows just how much effort that takes. And we're proposing to do 41 of them across the state. The only thing that I would offer is that we have a dedicated agency and a dedicated commission, and they're dedicated in this sense to improving public land duck hunting. And we certainly recognize that there will be a spotlight on us to pull these blinds off, to construct them, to brush them, and to do so at a very high level. But I've seen the agency do more with less. And I have full confidence in our ability. When we set our minds to it, we say we're going to do something, we're going to do that. And I can assure those out there that these tier 2 blinds will be constructed. They will be brushed as if they were my duck blind. That's what I hope to see. That's what I hope to produce, and we're committed to doing it. So I guess trust me, I'm from the government. I'm here to help.
All right. Some folks may be worried about fighting over blinds and racing to get there. I know safety is, we've thought about that, and we're concerned about that, and we've thought about that, right? We have, and I think we received a lot of those comments about the potential tier 4 or first come first serve sites. And in the February 1st proposal, there was almost 190 of those tier 4 sites proposed. Clearly, we have listened to the public.
as the current proposal contains no Tier 4 sites. Now, I should take a note there, this opportunity to kind of talk about where Tier 4 and how it may operate under the current system. Traditionally, and under the current rules, if an individual secures a 60-day permit for a blind, they not only get the ability to hunt that blind, but they also have the responsibility of building a structure on that site. If someone does not build a blind that has secured a permit, we will convert that location to a first come, first serve as we have traditionally done. So essentially, if somebody doesn't build a blind that they were drawn for, we're going to convert that to a Tier 4 location for that season. And that's the way we're going to operate going forward. And that's how that Tier 4 classification will be utilized, at least for the time being.
All right. Some of the concerns about the cost, maybe I should have tied this in with the maintenance of the blinds that we talked about earlier, but where are we going to get the money to pay for all that?
That's a fair question, and certainly one that we've put a lot of thought and effort into. Again, the way TWRA spends money depends a lot on how our commission prioritizes it. And one exciting thing that duck hunters have to recognize through this process is that we have a commission that's committed to making improvements to public land duck hunting in Tennessee. And that's probably a long overdue commitment. And it will, I think the commitment will impact more than just these blind sites. I think there's challenges for the agency staff to continue to find new properties or existing properties that could be further developed or increase access to. But as far as the dollars that will be utilized to maintain and enhance the Tier 2 blind sites, there are some monies out there that are set aside for maintaining and enhancing wildlife management areas. And that pot of money is not generated necessarily through the sale of hunting and fishing licenses. And that's where those are the dollars we intend to utilize for this new system. Certainly it's not going to be cheap, but we believe that the opportunities that are being provided by Tier 2 blinds and the economic value to the state of getting more people out there traveling and experiencing our WMAs is certainly worth the money that we're going to be spending.
One comment came in that we're killing tradition. It wasn't broke, don't try to fix it. And go out there and get the guys that are not doing what they're supposed to and selling blinds and that kind of thing. How would you respond to that?
Yeah, I certainly can appreciate the desires to continue longstanding traditions. I share that sentiment with those hunters that have made those comments, and I can only tell you that this tradition of duck blinds and the style of duck hunting that we do in Tennessee is very different than many other places, and something that we need to hold on to. I grew up in the Boot Heel of Missouri, and I hunted ducks in the Delta of Southeast Missouri and in the woods of Northwest Arkansas. And it wasn't until I came to Tennessee that I ever conducted a duck hunt in a large permanent style duck blind with stoves and heaters and breakfast and all those things that Tennessee hunters have become traditionally accustomed to. But I think you can see that we respect that tradition and we want it to continue in the way that this proposal has been modified. To change 270 some blinds from a different classification back to Tier 1, I can only offer, I think, is we heard you, we're listening, and hopefully this change will, and I believe it does allow for those long-standing traditions of how we've done duck hunting in Tennessee to continue while adding a few new opportunities that we expect people to really enjoy as well.
And kind of on the back end of that, some say it's a poorly disguised attempt to stop the sale of blinds and that sort of thing. How would you respond?
I think the selling of blinds certainly is, it's a problem. It's unfair. And it's a consistent complaint that we received under the handheld draw system. But that's not the sole reason nor even perhaps the primary reason for this overall change. I think that the new system with the new computerized draw will curtail any illegal blind selling that's been going on. But I also think this system is much more than just stopping some illegal conduct. This is a whole new way of administering these spots, a whole new way of providing opportunity while still holding on to those traditional ways that we've done it over the last 30 or 40 years.
Some say I'll never hunt in Tennessee again. They're going to go to another state to hunt. how would you respond to that? We're not trying to run folks off, for sure.
Yeah, certainly I'm sad to hear those comments. I guess what I would offer in response there is, I hope you're wrong if you said you're never going to hunt in Tennessee again, and I hope that we, as an agency, are able to provide opportunities that you can't ignore, because I believe Tennessee has the potential to provide some of the best duck hunting opportunities in the country, and I'm confident that the folks that work for this agency are dedicated to that. And I guess, frankly, I don't believe that it's true, because we're going to have such a good duck hunting in Tennessee at some point that you're going to hunt here again.
Well, one other comment that came in was that it's only real hunters, true waterfowl hunters. Too many places a novice can't understand. How would you respond to that? I mean, we're those that buy a license, you can't say they're not a real hunter, right? Doesn't matter if you're a West Tennessee native or
yeah,
not.
I mean, certainly there's going to be levels of experience when it comes to any hunting. And I think we absolutely have some education to do when it comes to how to locate some of these tier 2 spots as we move forward. But that's not something that is unique to duck hunting or foreign to to hunting public in general. People go out and try new things all the time. And while they may not have the experience of a 30-year local that's hunted Camden Bottoms every day of the duck season for 30 years, we're confident that the sites that we've selected will be accessible by those hunters that are maybe a little less familiar. And what we're hoping is that we breed some new interest into waterfowl hunting to people that maybe haven't been able to experience at the same level of those really experienced hunters.
And I guess to follow up, or just to wrap it up, we've heard concerns, but there were also a lot of positives that came in. A lot of folks were excited, especially those from East Tennessee, that they're going to have an opportunity to get in some of these blinds, and providing more opportunity for those folks that have to travel a little further. Some are excited about the computerized draw rather than have to be in person and all that kind of stuff. Just to wrap it up, how would you respond to that, and just take it from there?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, the attitudes about public land duck hunting and what works best for the individual obviously is different. You know, whether you're from East Tennessee or West Tennessee, or whether you're a novice or an expert, everybody's desires and interests are a little bit different. Certainly, the public comment that we received from the first proposal clearly indicated that the hunting public as a whole felt like that we were trying to institute too much change. And I think by listening to those concerns and making significant revisions to this proposal, I'm hoping that we're now striking the appropriate balance and providing everybody with some opportunity that they want. Certainly those folks that have supported the changes to this point, I think we've left a lot of the concepts and things in there. It may not go as far as what some of you want, but certainly we have to be respectful of the other desires for 60-day structures and for those traditional aspects of Tennessee duck hunting. So I hope this proposal strikes a balance, and I hope there's a little bit in there for everybody. And I hope that we continue to get the comments, because I think that this proposal is much better now than it was on February the 1st when it came out in its initial form. And I owe that in large part to the hunting public and those that have taken the time to send thoughtful comments or have thoughtful conversations with myself or with other members of the agency or with our commission. So I hope we hear from folks coming out of this proposal, and I hope that we continue to move forward and make some improvements to our public land duck hunting in Tennessee.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for this overview. Thanks for all this great information. I know the folks watching, I really appreciate you doing this. Just a reminder that the commission meeting has been rescheduled for March 4th and 5th. And with that, we'll let you go. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Jason.